Don't push me, cause I'm close to the edge. I'm trying not to lose my head. Ha 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 ha. But they pushed him. Grown folks movie alert. The birth of a nation. Up next, let's go.
Brian's cosigns, yeah.
I had to put the suit on for this one. What's up, y'all? You are now rocking with Brian's cosigns. I am Brian Gunn. The Birth of a Nation is written by, directed by, and stars Nate Parker as Nat Turner. Now, who is Nat Turner, you ask? That's right, because they don't teach that in schools. Well, Nat Turner was an enslaved, literate Southern Baptist preacher who was basically exploited to use the Bible as a means of obedience as he read scriptures to fellow slaves from plantation to plantation. Now, as he was going to those distant plantations, he noticed the very inhumane ways they were treated, and also, after going through some very bad circumstances of his own, he realized that he could no longer exploit his own people. He could no longer lead his own people astray. So he orchestrated one of the bloodiest and the most historic rebellions in history. Lasted 2 days, y'all. Even the title is a direct shot, and it's a diss to the 1915 so-called classic, The Birth of a Nation, which heralded the Ku Klux Klan as heroes. Go figure. Unlike past slavery-inspired movies where subservience is a focal point, The Birth of a Nation gives a middle finger to being meek, and it shows you what happens when a man is pushed over the edge after experiencing physical and mental abuse for so long. Nat Turner has a compelling character arc in the story, and Nate Parker plays that thing brilliantly. I mean, you can see the inner conflict as he goes to these different plantations, trying to convince fellow slaves that they should act accordingly, you know, while quoting scripture to slaves. You can see it boiling inside of him that, is this what I should be doing? Armie Hammer plays Sam, Nat's slave master. Now, at first glance, Sam comes off as a pretty nice slave master. I know what you like, nice. Hey, you're gonna be a nice slave master. Well, yeah, it's an oxymoron, but trust me, there were much worse slave masters back then than you see on screen. But he seems like a nice enough one to Nat and his slaves, and he's also facing an inner conflict. That inner conflict is he's trying to keep his plantation afloat. And there's another reverend who sort of puts a bird in his ear that, hey, we can make a lot of money off Nat by parading him around to other plantations and getting him to speak to slaves, and people will pay us. So now he's conflicted. Should I do this? Is this morally right or is it not? Now, their relationship is going to be tested. The relationship between Nat and Sam is going to be tested later on in the film, but I'm not going to spoil that for you. Asia Naomi King plays Cherry, Nat's wife. Now, her performance is going to be the one that really captivates you. It's funny how they meet at first. You know, it's a funny scene. But as they become husband and wife and get married, there is a very disturbing scene, and it's going to have you feeling some kind of way. Now, the thing about this movie is a lot of these scenes are suggestive. You don't see them in full. For instance, Gabrielle Union plays a slave. Her name's Esther, and she's married. She's married to another slave by the name of Hark. Well, she is called to entertain one of Sam's house guests. So you see the light in the room go on, and then you see her come out of the room, you know, in a messed up situation, a messed up state of mind. And there are a lot of scenes that could be more violent than what they are, but they're not. they're actually really toned down as opposed to a 12 Years a Slave. Now, wait a minute, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of gruesome ass scenes in this movie too, please believe it. There are also some abstract visuals. And it's said that Nat Turner was said to have visions come to him as he was planning his moves, which were kind of strange. Now, if the audience really doesn't know the history of Nat Turner, that will come across as confusing to them. The actual rebellion comes much later in the movie, and it's rather violent, but it could have been a whole lot more violent. Maybe it should have been more violent. The events leading up to that rebellion are pretty ill, and Nate Parker does a really good job of creating that tension. Some of the drawbacks are the cinematography. It's very good, and it's a period piece, but some of the work is bland, and some of the camera angles make the film rather dull. But I think, you know, the more he creates more movies, the more he directs, he'll clarify that problem. It won't be anything. This is a very good film. The Birth of a Nation is very healthy, and it weighs in over 1,000 pounds of inspiration. Therefore, I am co-signing The Birth of a Nation to the fullest.
The Birth of a Nation. It takes a nation of millions to hold us back, baby.
You know, it was kind of disheartening to see how Nate Parker's character was assassinated during the filming of this movie. But not only do Black Lives Matter, Nate's film matters. The Birth of a Nation. Have you seen it? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Put your comments down south. Let me check them out. Subscribe. And as always, take your words to the movies. All right?
Brian's cosigns, yeah.